What is good, LAFC faithful, and welcome to Defenders of the Bank, episode 333. Just about 1/3 of the way to 1,000 episodes, which is kind of crazy to think about. It seems like we've done them all in just the last couple of years. You know my voice, it's the Scarf, J.R. Lieber, and thank you for staying up late with us. It is about 9:40 in the evening on a beautiful Monday, October 14th, and it was spooky season in Vancouver for sure. We had a goal, one of the fastest goals we've ever scored, one of the latest goals we've ever scored, and in between, we got thoroughly outplayed by the Vancouver Whitecaps. Again, it's the Scarf, J.R. Lieber, and of course, sitting across the interwebs for me in world-famous Film Monster Studios, ready to break down our 14th game against Vancouver this season, is one Christian Philly Philemon.
Good evening, Los Angeles. Hello, lovers of LAFC, the black and gold in Major League Soccer. What a weekend it was. What a weekend it was for all of us across a lot of sports terrains. And we got one more game left of the regular season. How did we get here? I always used to think baseball had the longest of seasons. Major League Soccer has the longest of seasons. It felt like we never stopped. We hardly got a break in between our loss to the Crew in the MLS Cup final back in December up until now. But we're finally in that home stretch, finally about to play the Smurfs on decision day with the chance, doesn't all depend on us, but with the chance of potentially even clinching the West. Good things are upon us, and make sure you get those wallets ready because we're about to get charged a bunch of money for playoff tickets. I'm not Scrooge McDuck. This guy is. I'm going to have to start asking him for money to pay for these playoff tickets.
Hey, first of all of you in the chat, it's very painful what you guys keep bringing up about how you need me at the Mets-Dodgers games and not Philly, because clearly when I go, they lose 9-0. When Philly goes, they win 7-3. So Philly, you gotta take up the torch and keep going to those Mets playoffs games for us if you don't mind. For all of you Dodger faithful in the chat, welcome to hating your two favorite LAFC podcast hosts for the next week or so. It's just so much fun. Look, I have to say, Philly, when I was there for the 9-0 game, there weren't very many Mets fans in that stadium. That is for sure. But the ones that were there, most of them did stick around for all 9 innings, just like I did. And I will say the amount of Dodger fans who were nice, and it's a lot easier to be nice losing 9-0. They were great. So I really appreciate all the Dodger fans out there. I didn't get any baseballs thrown at me. I didn't get anything terrible happening like when I've been in the bleachers at Yankee Stadium. But what a fun last couple of days that this Dodgers-Mets rivalry has given us. And Philly, you got to be a big part of it today, seeing the Mark Vientos Grand Slam. And so, yeah, you were there today. I was there yesterday. It just fun times right now.
Well, fun times indeed. And actually, out of respect for our friends that are Dodger fans, I don't really want to get into the Met game because I know that's a game y'all would soon likely forget. And as much as I'd love to gloat about this because it's been a while, I'm not going to out of respect, because if the series doesn't go our way, Defenders, I got a Brooklyn Dodger hat that I'm going to be sporting for the next round. Because am I going to be cheering for the Guardians? Am I going to be cheering for the Yankees? I'm a Mets fan through and through, but I do know, for those that do know baseball, Met blue is Dodger blue and the old New York Giants logo. There is no Mets without the Dodgers. I get that. I know the history. Going back to the days of the Brooklyn Grays. So out of respect for y'all, I won't mention the Mets any more times after that last reference a couple of seconds ago.
So that's it for that. We do want to remind everybody the Mo Fascio Futsal Court fundraising effort is still underway. Head on over to LAFC.com/Mo-Fascio for all your details on that. We are going to get to something at the top of the show that normally we would get to at the bottom of the show, and that is all the math that is involved. Because, yes, we know we won 2-1. Before we get into that, I just want to remind everybody, it's episode 333. And normally this is where we highlight an area code, but you know me, Philly. I like to try and find those ridiculous things that tie back to LAFC somehow. Well, there is a French area code, which is plus 33-3. That's 333. Of course, that area code, Philly, is for Northeast France, including the Grand Est region, which of course includes the world famous city of Nancy, France, birthplace of Maxime Chanot. So our area codes actually have something to do with a player for the first time in a long time.
I did some digging for myself, and apparently it's a medical code too.
Yeah.
But it's not one that I actually want to recite on this podcast. So I think I'm going to refrain from that. If you're curious what the code 333 is on the medical side, I'll leave y'all to that. But it's also a UK phone number for non-geographic numbers in the United Kingdom that are often used for businesses and organizations as a single point of contact for customers or a national customer service line. That's interesting. Out of all the numbers that are out there within the area codes, hell, the area code I grew up with was 718 and 212. The fact that there's no 333, that's interesting. But hey, I love the fact that you did this and dug through and somehow connected it to one of our own. That is why you are a teacher, my friend. Forget this math and Latin stuff. You need to do other things like data mining.
Hey, area codes. All right. Excellent. Listen, there's a whole song about area codes that I grew up with, and you grew up with. But now we have Maxime Chanot in different area codes. Look.
He's on a different continent right now.
Here's
area codes.
Yeah, he is. Here's the big deal, folks. Let's get 333 was also our formation in the 84th minute against Bogusz. Spurdy with the jokes. Nicely done, Spurdy. Solid. I like it. Well, I didn't hear that if you pressed a button. I don't know what just happened, but
sorry, I just was making sure those laugh tracks still work.
I hope they do. All right, folks, listen. We now know that we have the 3 points that we needed, so that going into decision day, we have something to play for. Ben Skolnick, stop it right now. That is hilarious. We have
I do have a lot of stuffed animals. Thanks for pointing that out.
On decision day. And so let's talk the math real quick. It's very, very simple. We are 3 points behind Carson in the table. They have 64 points through their 33 matches. We have 61 points through our 33 matches. So what that means is we obviously have to win and they have to lose to tie on 64 points. But if we tie on 64 points, that means we go to the tiebreakers. And if we tie on tiebreakers, here's where it gets interesting. We also tie on the first tiebreaker, which is total number of wins on the season. We would be tied at 19. And if the math works out so that we only beat San Jose by 1 and they only lose to Houston by 1, so the goal differentials would then be also tied at 19, which is bad for us because the third tiebreaker is number of goals for. And as of right now, we are losing 68-60. So that doesn't help us at all going to that third tiebreaker, which means not only do we have to win and Carson has to lose, but one of those two things needs to happen by 2 or more goals. That's what we need. 2 or more goals, either a differential that Houston beats Galaxy by or that we beat San Jose by. If we don't, then they win based on the tiebreaker. If they do anything other than lose, it's all a moot point anyway. If they get a tie or if they win, it doesn't matter. If we don't win, it doesn't matter. But it's really important for us to, if we win, and we need to score goals in bunches against San Jose, we have to do it by more than 2, or they have to lose by more than 2. And Philly, I don't know how you feel, but I don't trust Houston to beat Carson by more than 2. So I think we've got to put in all the work on decision day against San Jose.
I mean, we very much control our own destiny, and this is a scenario that doesn't completely depend on us. At the end of the day, the only focus should be going in there and getting the best possible result we could on decision day with the playoffs looming right around the corner. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly what Steve is telling all the boys. Look, crazier things have happened in the world of football when it comes down to the wire on the final day of the season. You have to look no further than a year ago in the Bundesliga when it came down to, well, a couple of years ago now, between Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich. That was a hell of a way for Dortmund absolutely crap the bed and relinquish their Meisterschale to mighty Bayern. So look, crazier things can happen, but the focus really should remain on beating San Jose because quite frankly, we've had struggles beating San Jose. And this is a very bad San Jose team, but it's been a while since our boys have been home. They're playing very, very well right now. We hit that low and then we're starting to come up high on our expansion thing just around the corner from the playoffs. So we need to just worry about what we can control and let everything else fall into play.
Yeah, last little bit of details in terms of standings. We know that no matter what, if Miami runs the table in the East, because they are the Supporter Shield winners, Miami will be hosting MLS Cup, and boy, will that be an expensive ticket if it's LAFC Miami in Miami. Oh my goodness. But there is also a chance that if it's not Miami, that LAFC could host against any other Eastern Conference team. We're hosting against everybody except for Miami and right now Columbus. Columbus right now has 63 points. And again, if we win, we go to 64 points. If they win, they've locked up number 2 overall seed, so they would host. But if they draw or if they lose and we win, then we're tied at 64 or we're ahead of them 64-63. And if we are tied at 64 points, Philly, we have more wins in the regular season. So we would host them in MLS Cup. How great would it be if it comes down to Columbus LAFC again, and because of the wins tiebreaker, where we would have 19 and they would have 18, that we now get to host that match at BMO Stadium?
I mean, it'd be great. I just have to ask Moneybags McDuck to relinquish some funds from his money bin. Scroogey, you got any money for me? Jumpstart me heart, I don't. Yes, I can't go.
It's a Scottish Hello Kitty voice. I love it. Never thought I'd hear it. That's
You'll have to forgive me. I'm delusional for being out at a ball game all day, and I'm quite tired, defenders. There was talk about us possibly tabling this pod for tomorrow just so I could get a little bit more juice, energy, and gas left. But y'all needed the pod, and I know there's plenty of people that would text us tomorrow angrily asking where it is. So here I am, but you'll have to bear with me. I'm a little delusional right now. Happy delusional, but delusional nonetheless.
Listen, we appreciate you doing it, brother. This day in LAFC history, of course, the match was played on the 13th, not the 14th when this is happening. So on the 13th, Philly, a player that you and I both have strong connections to, celebrated his birthday, October 13th, 1995, the birthday of the former member of the Name That Perez crew on LAFC, the former Loyola Marymount University Lion, the former Ontario Fury indoor soccer player, and of course, former Black and Gold, Adrian Perez, celebrating his birthday. And gone are the days of Name That Perez, and I miss it so much.
Yeah, it's been a while, but he's doing well. I mean, he's playing on Louisville City FC in the USL. That's a club that's really kicking some major behind. They're tops in the USL in the East, 23-3-6. And Adrian Perez, he's picked up a couple of goals playing on that side. So I'm happy to see him doing his thing. We were lucky to see him for a little while back as a member of the Empire Strikers. And I got to tell you, he lit the lamp so many times that he just went straight back to the outdoor game. But I have him to thank, because if it wasn't for Adrian Perez and the Ontario Fury, and of course, this podcast, I would have never had a broadcasting career. That trip out to Ontario when you and I went with Bruce, Panda, and Amanda, and Nina back December 2019 changed all our lives for the most part. And
no,
call the game on Wednesday on ESPN. We'll do another one on this Wednesday, and I got another one on Saturday. life's good. And I really have Adrian Perez to thank, because had he not played for the Fury, there would have been no visit to indoor soccer. None of this would have all transpired.
That's absolutely right. And Philly, as the chat is so mentioning as well, we want to make sure that we do mention that today is Lewis O'Brien's birthday. So we talked about Adrian Perez born yesterday, but today, Lewis O'Brien's birthday. Love Lewis O'Brien, Philly. He has been huge for us this season. So we got Adrian Perez yesterday, Lewis O'Brien today. Adrian Perez was also on San Diego Loyal with Alejandro Guido Perez, who were 2/4 of Name That Perez, along with Javi Perez and Josh Perez, all four of whom were at one point on LAFC. We had technically four Perez's. All right, let's get into real quick news and notes, Philly. You mentioned this on One More Sleep, and we want to bring it up for just one more time, that David Martinez was named to MLS's 22 under 22, brought to you by Body Armor. The 18-year-old Venezuelan striker became the 7th player in LAFC history to make the 22 under 22 list. Look, LAFC did a great article. Go back and take a look at who the other 6 players are. But we just want to give our props right now to David Martinez for making the 22 under 22. He has been excellent for us, and actually I thought played really well against Vancouver.
Yeah, I mean, he led to that first goal. We've all done far more in 38 seconds than David Martinez and Matty Bogusz did at BC Place recently, but more on that later. Congratulations. Yet another player. So people, how the Euro snobs keep referring to Major League Soccer as a farmers league, but players like David Martinez and a lot of the LAFC players that made this top 22 under 22 list, these guys aren't established European talent whatsoever. They're kids that were picked up from Central America, South America, and they've starred and they keep getting better and better. And Steve said something a few days ago in the press conference that really made a lot of sense. And the problem with David mainly has been him chasing his fitness levels. I mean, he got hurt and it took a little while for him to acclimate, but as he acclimated, he started really doing incredible things for a player of his caliber and his age. And so we wish him all the best. We've got him. We're going to hold on to him and hopefully pick up a buck or two down the road, selling him to a bigger club.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and Chris Lafferty does bring up a good point. We'll talk about this as we do the game breakdown. We were at one point on pace for 180 goals in that match. Let's check in on our 3 international call-ups. Philly went through the breakdown of how we've done so far. All 3 LAFC players will potentially be in action tomorrow, Tuesday, October 15th. Denis Bouanga and Gabon will take on Lesotho. Maxime Chanot and Luxembourg will face Belarus. And Kike Oliveira and Uruguay will take on Ecuador in Kike's hometown of Montevideo. And don't forget, LAFC 2's Brian Moyato is in Chile with the U.S. youth national team's under 20s for a pair of friendlies versus Chile. U.S. won that first one, and Brian Moyato did play a little bit in that one. But don't forget, tomorrow, lots of international action featuring LAFC players, Bouanga, Maxime Chanot, and Kike Oliveira. Philly, we also had a brand new player onto the roster for the very first time for LAFC. He wore the number 45 shirt, and that was the latest short-term contract signee from LAFC 2 to LAFC, Kenny Nielsen. He is a defender, and he was in uniform, number 45. That is all I have. If you have anything on Kenny Nielsen, I don't know.
No, I was just trying to think, like, what athlete pops into your mind when you hear the number 45?
45 is Jordan coming back. I mean, that's it.
Oh, besides that.
Nope, that's it. That's it.
Nope,
45
besides that.
Who you got?
Well, I'm asking you first.
I gave you my answer. 45 is Jordan. 45 is Jordan
I
on
said
the
it doesn't
Birmingham
count. That's a
Barons.
mulligan attempt.
Birmingham Barons, White Sox, Jordan.
No,
45.
it doesn't count.
I don't know. Who are you thinking of?
Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much. Pedro Martinez. Thank you.
No, I love Pedro. I love Pedro. But you asked me who I'm thinking about, and 45. There was a worldwide shortage of red dye when Jordan came back and wore a 45 jersey. They literally could not make red articles of clothing for 6 months in the United States because they couldn't keep up with demand for Jordan jerseys in 45. So I'm just saying.
God, I'm eyeing the age of 45. Come to think of it,
that's very true. Quick check in on LAFC 2 since we brought up Kenny Nielsen being signed up for them. They dropped their final match of the regular season 4-3 to Sporting 2. LAFC 2 raced out to a 3-1 lead after 50 minutes thanks to a hat trick from Javier, but not that Javier Hernandez. But the playoff-bound boys could not hold the lead. LAFC 2 finished their second season above 500, 12 wins, 10 losses, 6 draws, 45 points on the season, 5th place in the table, 2 points ahead of Los Gros. And so on October 20th, Sunday, October 20th, LAFC 2 travels to St. Louis City 2 at 12 o'clock. They will play their first ever playoff match for LAFC 2. Good luck to our boys in black and gold. And again, as a reminder, for all your Angel City Football Club needs, please make sure to listen to Angel City Chicks and to follow at Angel City Chicks on social media platforms. Philly, you got to ask John Nelson on Soccer in 60 about what he thought about Ricky Pooch getting taken out, and I thought that was awesome.
It was. Soccer in 60, for those who don't know, is a show on ABC Radio, affiliate KMET out in the Inland Empire. It also happens to be on the Empire Strikers social media pages. We talk about all things LAFC, Galaxy, Empire Strikers, Orange County Soccer Club, and so on and so forth. So, yes, I did have the opportunity to talk with John Nelson. Nice kid, man. Really, really fun to chat with him. Very lively. Not only did we ask him about the tackle, but we asked him about the Galaxy's past history of leaky defenses. And he didn't seem to agree with that statement. But look, it's fun getting an opportunity to chat with some of these guys. And I will agree with him considering where they were in the course of the game. That was a bit aggressive, but possibly people were more up in arms than they should have been. But that's neither here nor there. Scarf, based on Kickaball's statement of Nielsen being a former Georgetown Hoya, without looking at it, I'm going to play a game called Stump the Scarf. What former LAFC player was also a member of Georgetown Hoyas?
Oh, man, I knew this at one point. Wait a minute. What?
I know the answer.
Player was a Georgetown Hoya. God, who went to Georgetown? All right,
don't
Philly,
tell them in the chat, folks.
I don't have it right now, Philly.
Tomas Romero.
Tomas Romero.
Yep.
I like it. Chris Lafferty.
He actually helped Georgetown win the national title back in 2019. I remember watching that game here. I think I was with Reimer. But yeah, he was a member of the Hoyas, the team that won the national title. He was their starting keeper.
That's awesome. All right. I did not remember that. My second guess was
Philly wins this round. Let's see what we could do next week.
My second guess was either going to be Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning, or Dikembe Mutombo, but I know those couldn't have been right, even though they all did go to Georgetown.
And rest in peace, by the way, Dikembe Mutombo.
Yes, we talked about him on the pod when he passed. LAFC Philly coming in with an uncharacteristic ability to rest in between matches, coming in with a little bit of a break. That's the first time we've had a break for quite some time. Obviously, coming in on a 4-match win streak, we know we're leaving on a 5-match win streak. And we joked about this on One More Sleep. It is the 20th meeting overall between LAFC and Vancouver, not the 20th this season. We've won 9, they've won 6, and we've drawn in 4. And Philly, we did meet in that weird July 30th game at BMO in Leagues Cup. I mean, you and I, we were on cloud 9 as we were down 2-0 late. And then Kai Kamara in the 87th minute and Matty Bogusz in the 5th minute of stoppage time tie it late. Only for it to be those two guys who missed their PKs, and we wind up coming away with just a point.
Yeah, it's funny. As we were talking about One More Sleep, I mentioned that we hadn't lost to Vancouver in quite some time, and then the thought dawned on me about that game, but it didn't feel like a loss because we were so happy from taking away the point. So it completely went over my head that game didn't turn out and result in a W for us. But they, whatever. Good on them, by the way, for winning the Canadian Championship. They took on the U.S. Open Cup champions, And that's pretty cool. We get to do that. First time in our history, we get to say that as Open Cup champions, we took on the Canadian Cup champions.
and we defeated the Canadian Cup champions. There you go. That storyline wasn't brought up nearly enough, as far as I'm concerned, by MajorLeagueSoccer.com. But whatever. In front of 30,000 people at BC Place because they opened up the roof. Vanni Sartini and company would take on LAFC. Philly, shall we just get right into the lineups and get this show rolling?
Yeah, I say we've wasted enough of these fine people's times.
And we appreciate all of you in the chat and however you access Defenders of the Bank. Thank you so much, whether it's live on YouTube or on Twitter or on Instagram or Facebook, whatever it might be. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We here at Defenders of the Bank have a soft spot for good old Vanni Sartini.
Y'all are funny, man. Between Soccer Nerd and Ben, I can't keep a straight face. I had a headache coming into the show, Defenders, but the jokes keep them coming. I'm digging this. I'm digging this.
Oh my goodness, we love Vanni Sartini.
Sartini to it. That's great.
And of course, Vanni gets a parting gift of that yellow card right at the end of the match. It was one of my favorite moments because they literally stopped. And the referee, Fisher, came all the way over from the opposite side of the pitch just to, here's a, how's your father, yellow card to Vanni Sartini. There was obviously, Vanni just went and sat down. I love it. Yellow card does not mean you have a seatbelt. It's not like as a volleyball coach, Philly, I can also get a yellow card. It's something I've done twice in my coaching career. And as a volleyball coach, if you get a yellow card, it is a seatbelt. You have to go and sit down in your coach's chair for the rest of the match. And if you get up, it can result in your second yellow, which would be obviously a red. There are yellow and red cards in volleyball. It's not a seatbelt in soccer, but Vanni went over and sat down as soon as he got that yellow at the end of the match. I love
God, I wish I had some kind of Mr. Bean clip to throw into this pod. The fact that we obviously do this for commercial purposes as well would indicate that we would have the potential for a liability, not getting permission from Mr. Rowan Atkinson himself. But what a perfect time that would have been to insert some kind of Mr. Bean gif in here right now.
Or like a footage of me getting a yellow card. I don't know if that exists. That was such a long time ago. The last time.
Yeah, I don't think they had cell phones back then, Scar.
They actually, they
did. They probably were flip phones. That was probably even before the days of the Palm Trios and the Blackberries.
Oh, I miss my BlackBerry so much. I loved that keyboard. They had to pry that BlackBerry out of my cold, dead hands. Vancouver coming out in a 3-5-2, missing a whole bunch of depth. And I mean, these are good players. Just about 60% of their goals were gone on international duty. Ryan Gauld, Fafa Picault, Sam Adekugbe, Ali Ahmed, Pedro Vite, and Andreas Cubas are your 6 players out on international duty, really missing a ton of depth. But you wouldn't have known that, by the way, that the Vancouver Whitecaps played the 90 minutes. I know. The 90 minutes. Let's be very, very clear, folks. In the first minute and in the last couple of minutes, LAFC outplayed Vancouver. However, over the course of the 90 minutes in between, Vancouver really deserved a better fate in this one. We are glad that we got to do the decision day math at the top of this podcast so that we all could enjoy the 3 points and leave the Great White North thinking the Canadians are just as polite as we always have thought they are, but we did not deserve these 3 points. Goalkeeper Yohei Takaoka, the back line of Tristan Blackman, Renko Veselinovic, and Bjorn Utvik. Midfielders Ryan Raposo, Alessandro Schopp, Ralph Prizo, Sebastian Berhalter, and Matthias Tommy Laborda. And of course, at forwards, Levante Johnson and their absolute incredible talisman, Brian White. Brian White absolutely took over this game in parts. Sebastian Berhalter, our 2 players to watch, Philly, completely spot on for Vancouver. I got to say, neither one of us had Ilie Sanchez on the bingo card, but you did. You had Matty Bogusz, and I did have Kai Kamara, who was credited with an assist on the game-winning goal. So I think, Philly, as it turns out, we did pretty well with our 4 players to watch on this one. In the 18, Debra Caicedo, Giuseppe Bovellina. Of course, with a name like Giuseppe Bovellina, Philly, he has to be born in Adelaide, Australia, and Damir Kreilach. Philly, for LAFC? Who do we have?
For LAFC, we too were without some of our players, as we referenced. Some of them were on international duty, in the likes of Denis Bouanga, playing for Gabon. We were without Maxime Chenot, playing in UEFA Nations League for Luxembourg. And we were without Kike Oliveira. He was playing for Uruguay. He did get that start in the last game, in the loss against Peru, but subbed out after 45 minutes. So where would that leave us in terms of players to insert? I really thought we were going to be without Omar Campos and David Martinez as well. We got lucky on that. We kept more than Vancouver did, yet Vancouver almost beat us. But they didn't, so suffice it to say, LAFC starting lineup, Hugo Lloris in between the sticks, Eddie Segura, Aaron Long coming off of arguably the best goal he's had in Major League Soccer, and getting a start. Marlon getting his opportunity to shine under the bright lights of BC Place. Then we would have Omar Campos, the birthday boy, Lewis O'Brien, Timothy Tillman, and Sergi Palencia. As far as up top, we would have Matty Bogusz, Olivier Giroud, and the youngster sensation, David Martinez. Players that would come off of the bench, Ilie Sanchez, and he would have a very important contribution to this game. Kai Kamara, who anytime gets onto the pitch has some kind of important contribution. And Nate Ordaz finally getting himself some minutes in here that were productive, where we could all go, this kid continues to improve. I love it. Those are the only players for LAFC that broke into the game. So no sense in going over who made the trip. And I can tell you, Carlos Vela did not make the trip, but y'all know that as anyway.
And Philly, we were talking about keys to the match on One More Sleep a couple of days ago. And if I remember correctly, your key to the match was take the crowd out early. Well, Matty Bogusz, we know you listen to the pod. Thank you so much for listening to Defenders of the Bank. Matty Bogusz said, Philly, I might not be old enough or actually he is old enough now to drink a beer, which is good because he's Polish and he should enjoy himself when he goes to play for the Polish national team, which he should be on. Thought we'd be missing him as well for this window. But Matty Bogusz, Philly, hopefully all those 30,000 fans in BC Place got to their seat in time, because one of the best passes we'll see all season from David Martinez after Olivier Giroud chested it down to him. I don't know what more we can say about that pass from David Martinez. I don't know what was better, the pinpoint, perfect, accurate pass, or the little chip over Bjorn Utvig and Yohei Takaoka. But what I do know, Philly, is 32 seconds is all it took for LAFC to get on the board. The second fastest goal in club history, behind Chicho Arango's 22nd goal on September 2nd, 2021 versus RSL. And just like that, Philly is 100% correct, both with his player to watch and his key to the match in the first minute.
Yeah, look, what we 17-2-1 now, now 18-2-1 anytime that we score the first goal. But very deflating. You had all the players, all the people out there, all the spectators out at BC Place. And it was great to get a crowd of 30,000. They really thought that their team was going to come out and bring it to the U.S. Open Cup champions, but they did not. I'm sure there are plenty of people that listen to this pod that lasted longer than, say, a 38-second time period. If you know, you know. But what a great pass from David Martinez. And, dude, not only was the pass great, but that little chip beating Takaoka was exceptionally brilliant. And Matty Bogusz, man, getting that goal 38 seconds in. Crazy to think that that's only the second fastest goal that we've had at LAFC. But what a way to take the crowd out. 18-2-1 now when we score first.
Yeah, it wasn't a great day for Bjorn Utvik. Really wasn't a great day for Sergi Palencia either. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But look, Vancouver tried to answer right away, right, with Brian White and Sebastian Berhalter. So kudos on Vancouver for not laying down. But in the 9th minute, I got to tell you, I keep getting bugged with Olivier Giroud not running back to get onside instead of walking or jogging back. But in the 10th minute, Philly, he did have a decent attempt, although he barely got anything on the shot inside the 18. He stayed onside. The ball kind of pinballed around the box. He took possession turns, and this is where you think he's going to be able to rock and fire the way that Aaron Long did last match. But no, he kind of chunked it. It goes right at Takaoka. And I love the set piece. And Philly, this is something that I think LAFC is going to have to really visit in training when it comes to preparing for the playoffs. these set pieces where they deliver the ball back post, and that player back post, in this case, it was Tristan Blackman, heads it back across goal instead of at goal. And I thought Berhalter to Blackman to Matthias Laborda on the opposite side there over the bar. But it was one of those plays, Philly, that I've just seen. I don't know how you feel, but I've seen plenty of teams attack us with that ball over the top to the back post, and then we head it back across goal. That's where we seem to be most vulnerable. And we almost 13 minutes in, we're knotted at one.
Yeah, we've had an issue of a time or two off set piece defense. And while we didn't get burned there, we would eventually get burned later on in the game. Tristan Blackman would not necessarily have is what we would think was a goal down the road. But yeah, that's something we do have to be very mindful of. When we have 4 players in the back, that's typically not necessarily a problem. But you know, look, this was just one example, Scarf. And going back to Giroux real quick, I will say I'm surprised that they actually started him on turf. Just not that he's ever had any knee problems, but I didn't think that putting Olivier Giroux, a veteran, on turf would have been the greatest thing. But if he was chomping at the bit to play, who's Steve to say no? But set piece defense, you're right. As we progress through and look to make a deep run into the playoffs, we need to get better at taking care of business there.
Yeah, look, LAFC knocking on the door a couple of times right after that, though. A great buildup by LAFC with Omar Campos on the left, who finds Sergi Palencia with that cross, but he goes up and over the back on his defender. What happened, though, was that Sergi's header gets saved one-handed by Takaoka. The rebound came out to Matty Bogusz, and Bogusz buries the rebound, but the foul was called immediately on Sergi Palencia to get to where he needed to on that header. He had to play piggyback with the Vancouver defender, so the goal wiped away. But another perfect corner from Matty Bogusz in the 21st minute, right to the head of Steady Eddie Segura, and Takaoka had to make another one-handed save on that one. 2 great efforts there over the course of about 5 minutes. And then, look, I'll be honest, not much for the next maybe 10, 12 minutes in the match from either side. A couple of plays that Hugo has to come out and swat away, but nothing that I was really all that worried about it.
I mean, nothing that I was really too worried about either, hence the fact that I didn't take too many notes at that time of the game.
Well, look, they against the run of play, because Vancouver did start to pile up possession and decent chances. We get David Martinez after, again, I'll say it, another nice touch from Olivier Giroux. Olivier's passing and his touch has been on display over these last 5 or 6 games. And David Martinez, Philly, had another one of those little Carlos Vela-esque moves where he takes 1 touch, 2 touch, and then takes it on his left foot and hammers it. This one just wide left of goal in the 35th minute. But it just reminds me so much, Philly, of what we used to see from Carlos Vela 1 or 2 or 3 times every single match. I'm hoping this kid turns into a Carlos Vela-like player, if not better. I love watching this kid. The chat's been talking about it quite a bit. We have Gabe, who talks about how David Martinez has grown so much in different aspects of the game. Dave Gomez agreeing from Amsterdam as well. Just a solid bit of maturation that we've seen. Look, that's why he was number 19 on the 22 under 22.
Yeah, absolutely. He's blossoming before our very eyes. It's like watching a kid go through puberty and be successful at it, not really have that awkward stage. I think we might have gotten past the awkward stage. Now we're going through the growth acceleration stage. And he's not going to be the type of kid and the type of talent that we're going to retain for a long period of time, because at his age and at his skill level, there's got to be some knocks and some phone calls to John Thorrington inquiring about him. I think if there's ever going to be a player that we're going to make a decent amount of money on selling overseas to a big, big club, it's got to be David Martinez. Obviously, Diego Rossi went for a couple of bucks. We had other players, Jose Cifuentes, that went for a couple of bucks. But I don't think anybody that has the ceiling that the youngster David Martinez has.
Yeah, you and I thought it would be Mamadou Fall, right, with the big sale onto Barcelona. Man, there were publications when we signed David Martinez where the huge clubs were looking at signing him, called by a few as the best prospect ever out of Venezuela, which is big praise. Big
Yeah, the
praise.
likes of Joseph Martinez came out of there. Like some really good
Yeah.
players have come out of Venezuela. What is I'll get back to that thought in just a second.
Well, we do get to halftime, up 1-0. Nothing happens in the 1 minute stoppage time.
No,
We get into halftime 1-0. And look, it was a relatively even match in terms of statistics. Philly, do you have the
not
stats for that?
really. I mean, we had a vast majority of possession. We had 7 shots, 3 of them on target. As far as passing is concerned, we nearly tripled them. So I mean, it wasn't as close as you would think. At the end of the game, yes, but after the first half, LAFC dominated in a lot of levels. The
Sure.
only thing was their XGs were also comparable. But as
Yeah.
far as possession, as far as passing, I mean, LAFC really controlled that over Vancouver.
Yeah, didn't do a whole lot with it, unfortunately. And like you said, Vancouver, the 45 minutes that they played in the second half, they showed their best form for sure. If they wind up having to play in the 8-9 match and maybe losing a tough one on the road somewhere, they have to be frustrated that effort like this over the next 45 did not get rewarded with 3 points at home, or at least with a 1 point draw. I felt at the end of the match, honestly, I felt for those Vancouver faithful that were
Nope.
quieted so late
Nope.
at BC Place. I did not love, where'd Philly go? Did we lose a Philly? There's a
I have
Philly.
no idea what the heck happened there, but it's interesting that it stopped on an Angel City sticker.
Yeah, what button did you just press? I have no idea.
I further plugged in the USB cable because it looked rather loose.
In the 48th minute, not what we needed if we're trying to stay healthy. As Olivier Giroud goes down, he came down on Veselinovic's foot, stayed down for a little bit. Looks like he definitely twisted the ankle, but he got up, retightened the boot, and jogged back out there. After a couple of minutes, it would lead to some stoppage time, which would actually turn out Philly in our advantage. At the hour mark, we would see David Martinez come off. And you mentioned it, the sub that would change everything for LAFC later on in the match would be Ilie Sanchez.
Love Ilie Sanchez. Ilie Sanchez, not a goal scoring threat. I mean, I think the last time he scored a goal probably was the MLS Cup final, the final goal of that season. But him coming on and the impact him having, I just think like his calm demeanor, his professionalism, and obviously his skill level operating as a general in the midfield puts a little calm to the offense, and it just adds to the attack, in my opinion. But David Martinez coming off, that's a surprise. I mean, the youngster could go on and on and on. Why bring on Ilie for David Martinez? Not to say that Martinez shouldn't have gone out, but I would have loved to have seen him a little more, man, especially with the way he was playing.
No, I agree. Look, it's always tough when you take out, especially when you know what that's going to do to the pace of the offense by taking out a David Martinez for an
Slow
Ilie
things
Sanchez.
down.
The broadcast was talking the whole time, by the way, while this was going on, about Matty Bogusz motioning to the bench for a substitution. I didn't see anything like that on the broadcast. Never, it wasn't brought up at all in anything that I saw. So I'm just going to go ahead and ignore it. And Sergi Palencia, unfortunately, would like to ignore the next couple of minutes as we talk about this. A yellow to Sergi Palencia for an odd-looking handball that was deemed intentional. I actually think what Sergi was trying to do was to wrap up the defender at that point. And while wrapping up the defender, he created this handball that really made it look like he was trying to palm the ball back down and around. I don't think it was as intentional as it looked. Either way, it doesn't matter because the referee thought that it was intentional. So it's a yellow card, which leads to a set piece. And throwing bad money after bad, Sergi Palencia trying to go 1v1 with Tristan Blackman. Tristan Blackman's got Sergi by about 5 or 6 inches, I think. And as they went up together, Blackman actually overjumped the ball a little bit. And then bink, it was Sergi Palencia putting that one past Hugo Lloris, unfortunately. And Philly, after 63 minutes, the much-needed equalizer for Vancouver. And all of a sudden, the Western Conference crown is in peril in Canada.
Yeah, Sergi had his Lemony Snicket's moment, a series of unfortunate events, and that really was unfortunate. But it was ever so. I thought Tristan Blackman had the goal, which to me still would have been a punch in the face. For those who don't know, Tristan Blackman was part of our inaugural team. In fact, he was our second draft pick after Joao Moutinho. Moutinho? Did I say it right? Yeah. I think I called him Joao Paulo the last time around. But yeah, from the University of the Pacific. So I really thought it was off of him. But yeah, Sergi Palencia didn't have a good go round, and we almost got caught a couple more times, man. 66 minute ball, ball pinball around the box, shoved with a little chip shot, easily taken away by Hugo. But there was several moments, Scarf, between now and the end of the game that were eye-raising for LAFC, in particular against a team that was just so decimated by players on international duty.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was the two guys that we talked about over and over again, Sebastian Berhalter, Brian White. Brian White, Sebastian Berhalter, although they did bring in Deiber Caicedo late, and Caicedo back from loan. He's one of those players that when he's on, he's very, very good. And in the 72nd minute, he did a little Bawanga-like move to get to the touchline, skirting around a defender, and his, I don't know if it was a cross or a shot, it was a little hard to tell, was kind of deflected across the mouth of goal. We're so fortunate that nobody was there. And you want to talk about nobody being there. How about leaving Brian White wide open in the 74th minute? Levante Johnson just screaming down the right-hand side, that perfect cross to Brian White, but his header missing just wide left.
So
and
close.
Man, 75 minutes in, LAFC's got to figure out how to stem the tide a little bit. They tried that, right? There was the Omar Campos to Timothy Tillman to Sergi Palencia in the box with a little header, and then slowing things down by substituting on a couple players to reset the flow a little bit. Nathan Ordaz for Marlon and Kai Kamara for Olivier Giroud. And we've said it before, Philly, there seems to be some sort of a connection between Nathan Ordaz and Kai Kamara and the way this offense plays. And in the 78th minute, I loved our chances at finding an equalizer. I mean, a winner, not an equalizer.
I got to tell you, we really lucked out because a player with the class of Brian White should have shut us up really quickly. Guy has 15 goals on the season, leading scorer for Vancouver. I mean, he's got 60-plus goals throughout his Major League Soccer career. We got really lucky that he missed. That was the soccer gods playing in for us. Nathan Ordaz, the fact that he got put into the situation that he did speaks volumes as to how Steve thinks about this kid and how important he is to LAFC. You don't put a kid deep buried in the bench that you don't think can have an impact in a game like this if he doesn't matter. Nathan Ordaz very much mattered. And so him coming in, he had some moments, some very special moments that really helped us out. I don't want to say this was his best game ever as a member of LAFC because we had seen him score a goal, but he had a really significant impact in his 12-plus minutes of play.
Yeah, I think what we'll say is that if he obviously creates his own sizzle reel, right? You want to put it out there for everybody. If you're not going to get significant minutes at LAFC and you think you deserve them somewhere, you're going to lead your sizzle reel with what he did in this match for sure. But let's talk about Timothy Tillman, the unsung hero of the match.
The game.
Really, our least favorite player on Vancouver almost did us in yet again. An absolutely perfect corner from my player to watch, Sebastian Berhalter, finding that man, Damir Kreilach, who had subbed on not too long before. I mean, Philly, that save by Timothy Tillman off the line. And he was so nonchalant about it, right? Just like chested it down, kicked it away, and just jogged back like, okay, now let's go play midfield again. Best save of the night. Normally it's Ugo with something diving, something cool. But Philly, the best save of the match had to go with Timothy Tillman.
Not Takaoka, not Lloris, but Timothy Tillman with the save of the game. Put that on your top 10 Major League Soccer saves of the week. Oh, man, he was in the right place at the right time, though. It's not as if he had to stretch out there and do anything crazy, but thankfully he was there. With the game that Sergi Palencia had, if he was there, it might have ricocheted off of him and it might have gone in to the back of the net. But Timothy Tillman, your squad, your boys owe you a round because you saved our ass massively.
Absolutely. Look, they were talking about how a lot of clubs don't put that player on the back line anymore. And if not for that, we're down 2-1. and it's all over. The thought of the Western Conference, all gone. But because of Timothy Tillman in the 86th minute, a massive play. I think LAFC does have something to work on in terms of these long throws into the box. That also became an issue. It's something Tristan Blackman is great at. We almost, Philly, got the winner in the first minute of stoppage time off a Kai Kamara header, a beautiful pass from Timothy Tillman. And Philly, that is vintage Kai Kamara.
Very vintage Kai Kamara. So close. In other circumstances, he would have scored that. But, the soccer gods took away the opportunity from Brian White. The soccer gods took the opportunity away from Kai Kamara, but they would not take the opportunity away from Ilie Sanchez. Because just moments later, Ilie, first goal, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't think I am. First goal since MLS Cup. Amazing. But the way the play broke through and came out, this is where we have to give credit to where credit's due. Nathan Ordaz doing some pretty good things. Scarf, why don't you just walk us through this?
I mean, look, we've seen the play over and over again on social media, the splitting of the defense, but it actually all starts with Matty Bogusz, and they wound up looking at this after we scored the goal. Matty Bogusz closes a 10 or 12-yard gap on Giuseppe Bovalina from behind, and it very much looked like it could have been a foul in that buildup. But they deemed that Matty Bogusz was shoulder to shoulder on Bovalina, and it is a great takeaway. And as soon as he got the takeaway, delivers it to Nathan Ordaz down the left-hand side, and there were 4 or 5 defenders back, including the keeper, as Nathan Ordaz motors down the sideline. And a few sagged away, which meant there were 2 on Nathan Ordaz on that left-hand side. He splits the defense, runs at the third defender, drops it off for Kai Kamara. Kai turns, and a nice little dummy at the top. I think it was Lewis O'Brien who lets this ball go all the way through to Ilie Sanchez. And kudos to these players. Aaron Long last week, Ilie Sanchez this week, not hesitating. Ilie saw that he had enough space because Tristan Blackman, of all players, did not close down on Ilie Sanchez. He slots it to the left of a diving Takaoka. And just like that, LAFC improbably, with almost no time left, gets the winner. Philly, you were asking about the last official goal he scored in an LAFC shirt was July 4th, 2023 versus Carson, because those penalty kick goals, yes, it counts as a goal as a PK, but not in terms of stats. But July 4th, 2023 in Carson, only the third time in over 130 matches we saw Aaron Long with his first in 70 some odd matches. And now we have Ilie Sanchez with only his third goal in 130 appearances in an LAFC shirt. An absolutely improbable game winner from Ilie Sanchez.
Yeah, and it's not like he scored a lot of goals when he was at Sporting Kansas City either. I think during his time there, he might have scored less than 10, probably right around the 7 mark, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, of course, I forgot all about that Galaxy game. We play so many games that even that game, even the fact that it was not that long ago, seems like distant memory. But it was a gorgeous, gorgeous goal, and it couldn't have happened to a better person. I mean, the guy worked so hard, not only on the pitch, but off the pitch. And I'm sure plenty of you all out there listening to this podcast have experienced the generosity and the kindness of Ilie Sanchez. I mean, he takes his time to speak with people, to sign autographs, to do a lot of amazing things. So I was really happy for him. The guy's a legend without a doubt at LAFC and put us up. But that didn't come without a little bit of drama moments afterwards.
I mean, off the kickoff from the goal, there's not much time left. So Vancouver does everything to put it forward. And Philly, it's those 2 guys again. Sebastian Berhalter to Brian White. And Philly, his header caught all of that left post. It actually rebounded right back out into the box. Thank God LAFC was there to clear it off the line and away. And of course, that was it. But oh my goodness, Philly, can you imagine how pissed we would be if we were sitting here going, we no longer have a chance to win the West because after scoring a 3rd-minute stoppage time goal, we come back and let Vancouver do the same with their only 2 good offensive players on the pitch. Unbelievable.
Abel Castillo in the chat goes, I stopped playing Space Marines 2 for y'all. Understand how much I like you guys. I just checked out Space Marines 2. It looks like a lot of fun. I wish I had time to play video games. I really, really, really do. But yes, Brian White could have absolutely killed us, spoiled our Sunday evenings, but they did not. They did not. For fans of LA sports in general, it was a great day yesterday. LAFC beat Vancouver. The Dodgers destroyed the Mets, the game that Scarf was at. And it turned out to be a really, really good night. We win 18-8-7, 61 points. Third time we've done that in club history where we've had 60 or more. And going to BC Place, we win on the road again. Matty Bogusz doing his thing. You said it. I don't have to reference it again. Just behind Chicho Arango's goal. And ironically, Scarf, that he scored that against Real Salt Lake. I wonder if anybody in the front office remembers that day when he did score early on in the game. But yeah, second time that Matty has scored in the opening minutes, by the way, of an MLS game. You could go back to June 21st, 2023 in a game against Seattle where he's done that. And 15 regular season goals, man, 19 in all competitions, second on the team. Are you kidding me? Matty Bogusz, baby. Well done.
And it gives us a pair of players with 15 or more goals. We are the 4th team to have that. Turns out those Messi and Suarez guys are pretty good in Miami. It's Cabecita and Evander in Portland, and Gabriel Peck and Dejan Joveljic down there in Carson. Those are the 4 pair of players, and thank God, I am hoping, I am praying, as Chris Lafferty brings it up right now, that this will be the last match in the black and mold kits, those smoke screen green kits. I am over those kits. I hope we don't have to play another match in those green kits ever again. I have, for the very short time that we have had that uniform, I have never liked it. My full love and respect to the 42 originals, that kit was created for you guys. And I know it really wasn't. It was created because of the smoke and the North End and everything else, but love that. However, not a big fan of that kit as an LAFC kit. We are black and gold or some version of it, please, from here on out.
Look, I mean, they're always going to have some off-color kit. I mean, it's not just Major League Soccer. It's every team around the world. It looks good with jeans. Doesn't necessarily look good on the pitch, though. So I will agree with you. The last bit of flowers I wanted to throw out, Nathan Ordaz, his 3rd assist of the season on the game-winning goal. A new career high for him in that sense. So that's pretty good. The old razzle-dazzle, a lot of really fun comments in here. The Ordasm, I think that might be my favorite one that I saw in the chat. But I love to see other players succeeding on the pitch, not just your Denny's. Obviously, love seeing Matty get his stats, but David coming through, Nate Ordaz coming through. We need a full team contributing offensively if we're going to look to make a deep run into the postseason. And without the likes of a Kike Oliveira, without a Denny Bouanga, without a Maxime Chanot, other players absolutely stepped up. And it just goes to show you how much fight was there. Because, yeah, they could have played for a draw, man. They absolutely could have played for a draw. None would have been the wiser. But they kept attacking. They kept pressing. And they eventually scored an Ilie Sanchez. When you're free from outside of the box, let's see some more of that, buddy. 1 goal in each of your seasons with LAFC. God bless you, man. God bless you.
Absolutely. Look, we want to remind everybody, if you're looking for us to discuss the math and what we needed to do, we actually did that at the top of the episode. So head on over to the first 10 minutes or so of episode 333, where we break down exactly what needs to happen on decision day, not only for LAFC to win the Western Conference, but for potentially to be able to host MLS Cup against every other team in the league that isn't Miami. So make sure you check out the beginning of the episode for that so that you can hear all the ins and outs. It's really not all that complicated, but the Columbus Crew thing is kind of an interesting thing too. So please make sure you check in on that. Philly, we've got one more regular season match, 6 o'clock, decision day. San Jose comes to BMO. We need the 3 points. We need Carson to lose. We need a little bit of math to help. But then after that, we are planning on a super pod. That's right. we are going to be doing a playoffs super pod with a bunch of your other LAFC podcast personalities to get everybody together, talking about the playoffs, getting everybody excited. Philly, one last thing I want to talk about. Question for you, question in the chat, question for everybody. Do we see Carlos Vela against San Jose?
Yes. It's still early in the week, and Steve doesn't do media just yet, but I believe that we do. Final game of the season, decision day, in front of the home crowd before the playoffs to get him ready for the playoffs, to unveil him in the regular season. I absolutely believe we do see Carlos Vela against San Jose. And another reason why, this was the club, if you remember, that came very close to snatching him away from us. Not to say that our front office or anybody at LAFC could be petty, but how fun would it be just to grind their gears that his first game back happens to be the last game of the season against them at BMO. Yes, I do believe we see Carlos Vela. We will see the number 10 right out onto the pitch. Couldn't tell you for how long, but I think we do.
Everybody in the chat, get out of my head. It's exactly what I think. I think we highlight the Philly minute in our next episode. 80th minute, in honor of Philly, Carlos Vela comes on and plays the last 10, however many minutes of stoppage time. I absolutely do think that Carlos Vela does play. I don't think he needs any more time out there than about 10 minutes to get his feet wet, to make sure that he's still got everything that Carlos Vela brings with him to the table as one of the most prolific and dynamic scorers in the history of Major League Soccer. And then the interesting part will be, how does Steve Cherundolo use Carlos Vela this postseason? We will talk about that on the Super Pod with everybody that we can bring on from the other podcasts. So be ready to hear a lot of Carlos Vela talk in the playoff Super Pod. And yes, as Chris Lafferty is saying in the chat, the contract was a 1-year deal through 2024 with a team option of 2025. So it's going to be interesting to see what the club does. We think they're going to pick up the option. We'll see what happens. Obviously, Carlos Vela doesn't start anywhere for the rest of the playoffs, I don't think. But man, is it going to be fun seeing him come on late against San Jose. I think it's going to happen too, Philly.
Yep. And when it does, we can say that we've been there. I think we do bring back that club option and bring him back because he's our negotiating piece. He wants to play with his buddy Antoine. Antoine has very much been linked to LAFC. Bring those two to LAFC. I mean, bring Antoine to LAFC. We have Carlos, but bring those two and put them on the pitch together. That will be a glorious moment in our club's history.
And why not bring another Frenchman over? You heard about that guy, Paul Pogba? Heard about him? He might be available. I'm just saying. More Frenchmen. Let's just make LAFC France West. Let's do it.
That's maybe, but that's the thing about, attitude in the locker room. It's hopefully he's done a great deal of maturing. You see the quality of players from a talent perspective that LAFC brings. But obviously these are men of character off the pitch as well. Not to say that Paul isn't and hasn't maybe learned the lesson, but think of the likes of an Ilie Sanchez and the likes of a Paul Pogba on the same team together. In a way, it could work. You did have Kaká and Ronaldinho on a team together, and that seemed to work. You have Ronaldinho who liked to party, Kaká who's very values-oriented. Maybe it works, but I just don't see where we would fit him. I know there's a lot of talk of him being linked here. I don't see where he fits, and unless it's a TAM deal, I don't want him.
No, I hear you. I don't think he's ready to play for peanuts just yet. In fact, I think he'll sign one more big contract before he comes to MLS in any way, shape, or form. But Philly,
yes, I agree. He's still fit. He's still fit for Europe, man. I think he has something to prove there.
Yeah, for sure. Here we are, Philly. An hour past episode 333. We got a lot to talk about coming up with decision day and everything else. The one more sleep against the wooden spoon winning San Jose Earthquakes. But for this one, so much fun to be able to talk about these 3 points, Philly. And that's all I have to say about that. How would you like to close the show?
I'm done. Let's go Mets. Bye-bye.
All right, then hit that outro music. Chat, thank you so much. Head on over to defendersthebig.com, buy something from the shop. And
We're
going to post a code for you guys soon on our social media platforms. Philly and I have to talk about this, where you can actually get a big discount on everything over at 500level.com, who does all kinds of sports and all kinds of paraphernalia. So with our good friends over at 500 Level, we're going to post that code for you guys so you can get big discounts over there as well, not just at Defenders of the Bank stuff at defendersbank.com at the shop, but at 500 Level as well.
Now I'm done. Good stuff. Bye. How's this work?